Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets. I'm your host, DJ Mitchell, back again. Cecil is out. He's not feeling well, lost his voice. So I'm filling in today for a big Tuesday slate. Hope to do it justice. Cecil does such an amazing job. But I'm going to get you as a little bit faster, hopefully, than normal when I have these big slates because I can ramble on. And I did on Monday. So I'm going to be a little bit more concise. So let's go game by game. I'm going to try to cover everything as, like I said, as quick as possible. It is Monday right now at about 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to use what I have because there's a lot of back-to-backs. So we're going to start right away with Seattle at Boston. This is a game that I think that is probably feels ripe for the under, but I don't know how bullish I am on it. It definitely profiles to me as an under 6, like one of my favorite bets, but goaltending has been really suspect for both teams. So it's hard for me to feel incredibly confident on it. That is definitely the case here, though. If Swayman, Olmark, Grubauer, Drieger, whoever's confirmed in net, if the two can play well enough, this game sets up really nicely to be a great under 6 bet. And I do think it might end up getting back to 5.5. So I might bet it now, but I'm not positive. The Boston line, I think it'll move in favor of Boston overall. Don't really see much reason to believe that Vegas is going to start to suddenly side with Seattle after, not being very good this year. I can't think of any news that could break that would change that unless if somehow Schwartz came back, but I don't see how that's even possible at this point. I'm pretty sure he has at least a couple more weeks before he can even possibly come back. So I'm leaning towards waiting till tomorrow and considering Seattle in the under 5.5, 6 as a bet, just to try to maximize the potential of this game. But it's a stay away from me in DFS. It's nothing I'm too bullish on in general. I think some people will talk themselves into Boston 1, and it's just really, really expensive. I just don't really love this iteration of Boston. They're a good team. They just got crushed by Dallas 6-1. So I think that we might see Pastrnak, Bergeron, and Marchand as they finish the game with, and that should stick again. And that might talk some people into it who think, well, maybe people won't play that, so I will. So I'm just not going to do it, though, and I really have no interest in Seattle. So under is probably my favorite thing from this game, and I'll see where the line gets to. If we end up getting Seattle at plus 280, 270, right now it's plus 215. I might consider it, but 215 is just not quite rich enough for my blood. The next game is Caps at Pens. Everyone loves a Crosby-Ovechkin game. Penguins are favorites, and I think for good reason. They're just an amazing team. They really run 3 very good lines. There were a bunch of guys missing from practice, but they just didn't run a full practice on Monday. But I would expect pretty much the same team other than Heinen, who seemingly is questionable to out. I probably won't end up being crazy high on the ownership in this game just because of how expensive it is to get these top pieces. Crosby over 8K is 8K, Ovechkin 8,900. I'm not intrigued enough. I think that in certain scenarios, the Ovi Kuznetsov Wilson line could be somewhat unique and kind of cool because Tom Wilson top line, I think top power play as well, I could double check, is only 3,700, which makes it somewhat affordable, but I just like this Pens team too much. And I think with Jari in, they are really quite a great team that could really make a run for it this year. Yeah, Jari wasn't great this last time out against LA, so maybe it is the Smith and net, which would be what would move the line and why I think right now it's at minus 155 for the Penguins. I think if we get news that Jari's out, it's probably going to swing a bit closer to the Capital. So I'm not betting it right now because I don't know. And there's really no definite indication that makes me believe that it's one way or the other. So I'm probably just not betting this game right now. I might not bet it at all. It just doesn't feel like it has the most meat on the bone to me as something that I'm like, I got to get in on. I slightly lean the over, especially if the Smith is in net. But if it's Jari, it's a toss-up. I think it's going to be right around that 6 mark. And I really don't think I need to jam it in with this many games. We have so many options, to make your big round robin that I don't think you need to get this incredibly high variance type of game in the mix. I might just be more intrigued to take an OV shot prop, maybe an OV point prop, if anything here, but nothing that is crazy standout in this game. I think it projects to be, I would put it at, Pittsburgh is just right into the middle of the pack. Washington, a little bit above them as far as expected goals index over the past 10, but it's nothing jump off the page. Not my favorite game. Probably not going to bet it. The next one is the one that I think stands out kind of the most as I was a little bit shocked when I saw it. Tampa minus 300 at home. It's just really hard to bet against this Lightning team. They are a really, really good team. They're pretty healthy again. So with all of that, Kucherov has missed lately, but I believe this could be the first game potentially back. It wasn't confirmed, but we don't really know the rules right now. There'll be 7 days, which I think as long as he's vaccinated, he can return. I don't know for sure. And there was no one, I looked through all the news and notes. I didn't find anything that directly said if he'd be in or out. He didn't practice, but that doesn't mean he's not playing. So we'll have to see about that. But with his absence, Point has been with Palat and Cirelli, and then Stamkos with Killorn and Joseph. I really do like that Point Palat stack. It's pretty cheap here. I think Tampa's a really good way to get kind of really good value per dollar in DraftKings. And I think that you could even consider just player props here in your bets. Now, I don't love taking the chop props for Tampa because they're pretty hit or miss, but I do like the idea of a Palat goal. He hasn't scored in a couple games. He had 23 minutes of ice time last time out, though, and I'm just willing to bet on him. Kind of without Kucherov in, I'm willing to bet on him to score because of that top power play, because of that usage that I just mentioned. I mean, that is really, really strong for a guy going against San Jose who can give up goals and touchdowns. So it feels to me like a good spot to get back on it. Cirelli is another guy that I think is worth at least consideration. He had some run with the top unit. Well, at least with Palat, Point, and Stamkos, who kind of just stayed out there the whole time for most of their run. Sergachev actually led them in ice time for the entire game. He just edged out Hedman, really a ton of 5-on-5 minutes. So he could be a contrarian take here to put with your Tampa stack. He hit the blocks bonus the past 2 times out. So he's an interesting guy and maybe even a point prop guy. You think a guy getting 30 minutes of ice time almost for Tampa is just likely to luck into a point with how much, great players they have with this team, unless if they return someone that I'm not thinking of. That'd be like Cernak or something. Again, he was unavailable for the last game, but he's kind of been on the questionable status for quite some time now. So that would be the only thing that could possibly pop up. But other than that, I feel pretty good about Tampa in general in this game. I just don't think that it's going to get to a point where I want to bet the Sharks. And I think the Sharks can score goals here. I don't like Timo Meier is just on another planet this season. So I could talk myself into them at least keeping it competitive, which is why there's just not enough juice on that puck line. Minus 120, I'm not doing that. So probably stay away from the spreads in this one. And I think I've kind of alluded to, I like the over okay at 6. I think it's pretty decent value, but it's nothing that's breaking the metrics like, well, I got to jam it. But if like you gave me this game and you gave me the Pitt game at the same price, I like this game a lot more for upside. So I definitely think it's worth looking into and considering in the mix. The next game is Florida on a road back-to-back against New York. That game already has gone for, I think, 6 at the end of the first period. Florida's up 4-2. And I do think that this line's probably going to move closer to Florida if they get the win. They should have Spencer Knight in net as Bobrovsky started on Monday. So, I'm not sure what that's going to mean exactly, but I kind of like the Rangers here. Okay. Depending on what the line gets to, plus 125, I don't know if it's quite enough for me with how good Florida is in general to bet. But like I said, if Florida ends up really laying it down on Columbus and getting the win, if this ends up 7-2, 7-3, I think we might end up seeing Florida get to that like minus 175 mark. And then the Rangers kind of getting to the plus 150, which is a lot more interesting to me with a home team with a great goalie in Igor Shesterkin, who showed up in their last game. I kind of said, I kind of like this team here against Minnesota. I might consider it, and they fold and don't get it done. Really disappointing, but he had the 40 saves against Seattle, which I was alluding to, and the win. So again, if he's out, that really hurts it, which is why I don't want to bet it right now because he's played the last 2. It's possible that Georgiev, who's not been very good, could be in sub 900 goalie on the season. I just don't love that with how good Florida is and how they basically they're projecting to be the best Corsi team on the entire slate, the most expected goals on the entire slate. And that's not going to go down after this Columbus game, as I've already alluded to. So if Georgiev's in net, I'm probably out. If Shesterkin's in net, I'm going to consider it. Just because I don't have as much faith in Spencer Knight, who has been a lot better as of late, but started the year so bad that I have concerns about that. So if we get enough juice on the, like I said, 150-ish range and above for the Rangers, I would take that. And then the over under 6.5. Georgiev and Knight are in net. I think it's good to go with, but Florida on a back-to-back, I don't love taking back-to-back teams at 6.5. That's just not one of my favorite things. There should be enough props in this game to get you excited about. The Rangers have a pretty good mix of players that to consider. Kreider's been one of the best players in the league as far as scoring is concerned. I'm not sure if I'm writing that just because of how many goals he scored above expected. But I do think you could probably find a player prop that is much more intriguing. Now, they might return Philip Hedl. We don't know, but he'd be minimum salary. And I think there's at least potential he could be on the Panarin line. So something to consider there. But other than that, I think that you're kind of looking at, like, I've been just jamming the Fox point, which he's out now, which does suck. So maybe look at like a Keandre Miller, who filled in quite a bit for Fox in his absence. I'm 99% sure he was on the first power play, but you know what? Wouldn't be very good if I didn't just double check it. I have it up right here. First power play was, it was Trouba. That makes a lot of sense. But Trouba and Miller were really the main beneficiaries. But yeah, I mean, it could be Trouba point. I mean, that might be really, really sharp to take. That's probably something that I'm definitely going to put in my list right away. He has been a really good Corsi guy in general. That could be really sharp. I think Keandre Miller at 2,800 on DraftKings is going to be one of the more preferred plays of the entire night. He did score last time out. He had 7 shots and blocks. So that's going to be really juiced as well. I think ownership is going to be real high, but it's such a huge slate. You can get away with it. The next game is a true back-to-back, home at home, Toronto at New Jersey. I could double check the score, but I believe, actually I have it up right here. It is 3-1 New Jersey. Wow, they took another goal there. So New Jersey playing real well here, struggling Maple Leafs. I ended up not betting this one just because I felt like it was just a little too much of a stretch for me to want to include Toronto in my list with how they've had them as such massive favorites. So looking okay there. But yeah, true back-to-back. It doesn't give me a lot of room to be incredibly high on this. It's a 6.5 over under, but boy, the goaltending is not great. Yeah, this game is more of a stay away for me than anything else. I probably just don't get there. Depending on what the line ends up though, because right now it's minus 190 Toronto tomorrow, and that feels real good. If they end up losing this one and it comes down even more, because like I said, a lot of times I'm seeing these lines coming down based off of one game sample sizes, which is not a really good indicator. I think Toronto is still a much better team here. So I'm really willing to look into this game tomorrow. If Toronto does lose, we get it at like minus 175. That feels like a great jam spot for a team kind of coming back after a tough loss. I like that quite a bit. It's impossible to bet Toronto player props right now. They're basically saying like 1.5 over unders or minus 200 for freaking Riley to have a point. And I just don't really like the variance and getting points because it's decently random as well. You can predict goals to the best of your ability, but it's not a perfect science. And defenseman getting assists is, again, you can kind of predict it, but if it's that much of a minus on like the potential upside of that bet, I just normally don't do it. I think just taking Toronto here in the minus 175, minus 190 range is pretty sound. And then it's probably it for me, not touching the over under or the puck line. The next game, Winnipeg on the road at Philadelphia reeling. Winnipeg is one of those teams that I feel like I just keep liking probably more than I should. And I keep talking myself into them. I just keep coming back and saying, like, I look at the note, like they're good. It's a good team. They're not in the playoffs right now. I'm like, what is going on with this Winnipeg Jets team? I mean, I think this is another spot I'm going to end up jamming them in DFS and probably, being overweight on them, and we'll see what happens. The Lions were Kopp, Scheifele, Wheeler, Connor, Dubois, Perfetti still. Yeah, I'm going to end up doing it. DeMello was back in their mix in practice, not confirmed he's in. He was in a red jersey, meaning that he might not play. Yeah, I think I'm going to end up on Winnipeg. I'm going to end up on some props for their players because I do really like how concentrated the minutes are for them. That's the big upside indicator. I'm going to talk about it a lot in the Morning Skate podcast about when I'm stacking teams in DFS, it's to maximize the potential exposure these players have together. And right now that first power play with, Connor, Dubois, Scheifele, Schmidt, Wheeler, Schmidt, Connor, Dubois, it's so strong. And you get that one, that other piece in Perfetti. I do like it. And I'm probably going to have the 3-man Dubois, Connor, and Schmidt, just full disclosure. And I think I'm going to try to put point props around it, put a Dubois point prop. I think that's real strong here. The over 6 is good with me. I think at plus 100, it's sound, and minus 150 on Winnipeg. I'm fine with it. I think it'll probably end up moving a bit more in their favor before puck drop, but I'd rather just probably go player prop here. I think you'll probably get the same kind of, leverage on Dubois point. It's probably gonna be around the 150, 170 mark. So I think that's totally fine. It's even been down to minus 125 at times. So shop that around. You'll probably find it. Next, we have, I'm on the wrong site, so I'm going to get the wrong game. Yep, we have Ottawa on a back-to-back against the Islanders. The Ottawa Senators are tied 1-1 right now in the game. I don't know who scored, but I had Stutzel. That was my cover boy. Now I want to check. Let's look live on the show. Shabbat. Tough break. Anyways, though, we have Ottawa, who, again, I'll just bring them up. Stutzel, line one, power play one, with the Chuck and Ennis. We're kind of doubting Norris returns. So, yeah, Ottawa on a back-to-back doesn't make me feel great. But, man, plus 225 against the Islanders is not terrible. The Islanders are not great. I don't think the Islanders are they're this team that everyone wants to convince you is like still fighting for a playoff spot, and they're just simply not. I mean, yeah, I don't love this game in general. It's so hard because the Islanders are really going all out. Barzal played 24 minutes last game, as they really should not have lost that game to Minnesota and did. I don't think I'm going to end up getting on Ottawa here. I might though. This is gonna be a real toss up for me tomorrow. I think this game is sets up real nicely for the under though. I'm not buying that this Islanders team is super good. Under 6 seems like a pretty good bet here. I think that Ottawa slows the pace a good bit without Batherson, without Norris. Yeah, I think this is a good under bet in general. It's probably all I'm going to take here and probably just move on. I want to keep this thing going. Next, Vancouver on a back-to-back. They are, where are they? What are they doing right now? They are, why is that game not on here? I don't know. They're playing right now against Chicago and it just doesn't show up for some reason, but they'll be on a back-to-back at Nashville. Again, I think this feels like an under bet. I think it's going to end up being 5.5 by the time you're listening, but it's 6 right now. I kind of wanted to say like I love Nashville in this spot with UC Saros in net, but Vancouver's been good enough to where I just respect them too much to take a minus 205 at home against them. Like it just feels like this just kind of feels like you have a Vancouver team with a pretty good heater against a Nashville team who's been in a bit of a slump. And I just don't think that I want to talk myself into this game other than maybe the under, just with how much, shots Nashville's been giving up to teams. Edmonton had 46 last time out against them. I don't have enough faith in this team defensively. And unless if UC Saros plays an immaculate game, they're really struggling to find wins right now. So I think I'm just out on this one in general. I like the under, but I think it's going to be 5.5. We should see Demko. Halak is in on Monday. So it should be Demko versus Saros, which is a really good matchup for the goalies just to get it done. Back-to-back Vancouver team. They're just much better defensively under Boudreau. That just seems like a good under. Nothing really else that's hopping off the page at me right now. Keep going here. Keep trudging along. We have Calgary at Dallas. Dallas has kind of been one of those teams. Again, I just keep betting them. I keep making money and I like them okay here, but again, I keep betting Calgary and making money. These are like two of my favorite bets as of late. Really, really good teams. Like I said, Dallas just murdered Boston 6-1. Calgary had the one game I bet on them and they lost against St. Louis, but then they were back against Vancouver and they were expected to score almost 3 goals. I think, 3. I expected goals of 3 and they only got the 1 in overtime, but they really, really badly outplayed Vancouver, who I've been playing a lot better. This is probably the game of the night as far as like skill is involved. A lot of people I think are going to be in on the under here at 5.5. It just kind of sets up with 2 defensive teams that control the puck really well, that limit offensive upside. So it's hard for me to want to do anything crazy here. I think this game's going to go really overlooked in DFS. I'm really considering one of these top lines as a potential pivot away from some of the other more, highly stacked lines that we're about to get to another team next that I think a lot of people are going to have ownership in, but I do like the under. So I think I'm probably just going to not run a ton in this game. If I do anything, I think I'll just have Calgary 1 stack in the mix in DFS and just kind of fade this game from a betting perspective. I don't know. I love plus money Dallas at home. That feels like a good bet every single time out, but I'm probably not going to have it. I don't really want to tout it if I'm not going to have it. So I'll probably look at the point props. They could be down a little bit for the top line in Dallas and the top line in Calgary. Look into one that I like enough. If I could get, any of the big 3 for Calgary, or really even Rasmus Anderson, who is, kind of not quite getting the points he probably deserves on the season. Top line, top power play, 24 minute, top pair. He's 4,500. He fits in real well with any stack. Only 20 points in 40 games. So you're going to get it a lot lower. You just think a guy getting that many minutes with that much exposure to this really good first line should be getting more points. And I think you could get some positive regression, and it might be time to bet on that. The next game, Arizona plus 400. Colorado minus 500. I obviously have to put $1 on Arizona. sadly but surely. Colorado will not have McKinnon. They're saying he's likely going to be back after the All-Star break. It seemed like they're somewhat optimistic. Bowen Byram could return after the All-Star break as well. Oh man, yeah, no, this is really ugly. I think a lot of people are going to find a way, and I think for good reason. They're going to talk themselves into playing Colorado 1 because I think there's decent, there's enough value on this slate to get it done. Now, Kadri got priced up to 8,300. It looks like they had Tushkin with Rantanen and Landeskog in the last game. So Valerie and Tushkin, not first power play, but still with two really, really good players. He is only 4,600, and yeah, I think people are going to play it for sure, and it's fine. He had a goal and an assist against Buffalo. That's your savings to make that top line work. I'm hemming and hawing because I don't want to play this game. I think Colorado being the chalk is going to be really tilting when they go for 5 goals, but I'm going to bet on Arizona holding it close enough. I just move on from this game. I'm definitely not betting, a lot of money on either side, like minus 500 on Colorado. Give me a break. So yeah, moving on from this one, I don't really want to talk on it long. I think the under 6.5 is fair enough because Arizona just isn't very good, and they scored 1 goal against Buffalo. So that told me all I needed to know. I think with they have 1 goal against Buffalo and 1 goal against Boston, yeah, just they can't score enough goals. Colorado might not, be able to solve Vizmelka enough. I don't know. I'm just gonna say the under at plus 100 because that seems like normally taking plus money on under 6.5 is probably over the course of history smart. Now we have my beloved Buffalo Sabres on the road, West Coast trip. Lucky for All-Star Rasmus Dahlin, he could just stay right in Vegas because they're playing in Vegas where the All-Star game is going to be. And this is, my last show before the break. Plus 320. I'm not betting it. The thing about the Sabres is they have so many guys out with COVID right now that and now even Middlestead that could be out with an injury. It sounds like it's still kind of up in the air, not a ton of news. Yeah, not that interested. I'll probably take a Max Pacioretty goal prop because he hasn't scored since returning, I believe. No, he scored on within the first few days after being back, but no, he hasn't scored since returning. There's only been 2 games. What am I saying? He hasn't scored in how many? Oh my God, he hasn't scored in a long time. So I think this is the spot to maybe get him at the best odds you can possibly find. Plus money on him to score against Buffalo feels really sharp. The Sabres are a mess right now. They have 4 goalies that are out. Anderson or Tokarski, not the best. I'm just not touching this game with a 10-foot pole than the Pacioretty to score, and that's it. And I think I might end up having him in DFS as well. Stephenson was out last game. Let me pull up their lines really quickly. This is something that I didn't have up for some reason. Where are they? They played against Tampa and they lost. I remember that. No, they won. They won in the shootout, and it was Pacioretty, Patrick, and Stone. And actually, Patrick was on the first power play. Well, there's your savings. Nolan Patrick is 2,600. Power play with Pacioretty and Stone and Theodore. And I guess second line, he only played 14 minutes. Not the best rate shooter in the world, but I guess you could consider it. Seems okay as long as Stephenson is out, which I think is he was in COVID protocol. Yeah, he's definitely going to play. Okay, so I think that covered pretty much everything. I probably went too long, so I'm going to get you out of here. Enjoy the All-Star break. Hopefully this was good enough. If you came in expecting Cecil, I'm sorry. All right, I did my best. Cecil, if you're listening, feel well soon, man, and enjoy the All-Star break.